And welcome everyone to the Soul Citizens. I am Griffin Gaming RPG, and we want to welcome you back for another fun-filled conversation about the game we all love and love to hate and love to embrace and love to get mad at, called Star Citizen. And Radagast, I have to say this. I'm going to repeat what you said. You said that that video was noise. Uh-oh, somebody's subscribing already. Thrakazog, thank you so much for the gift. It's up to Star Jump.
Appreciate it.
To Star Jump. Oh my God, that's great. Thank you.
Appreciate that. Thank you.
Yeah, Radagast, you're right. Noise is the right word. I agree. And we want to say noise because those animations have nothing to do with us, but they have a lot to do with our special guest who's on here with us this week. Star Jump Grim, who is here with his hat on.
Thanks. Yeah, thanks for having me.
How are you, man?
Self-promoting, got the hat on.
Yeah, hey, that's
from
it.
our failed merch store.
No,
I appreciate
it's not
you having me
failed.
on, though.
It's not failed. Don't worry. We got to go visit Star Jumps. Listen, you guys, we got to visit his merch store, okay? Chrome
we have to redo it. We closed it down because the quality just was not there. But I'll still wear the hat.
Okay, all right.
Chrome, nice hat though. Looks good.
Appreciate it. But I appreciate you having me on tonight. Excited to talk tonight's subject.
Well, last time you were here, I wasn't here, and so I missed out because I did a lot of work to make that show happen, and then I ended up having to be on vacation in Disney World, so I had to watch it. I had to watch it from Florida. I actually did watch it while I was down in Florida. Chrome Ninja, thank you so much for that resub for 3 months from Prime. Thank you. And I don't want to, I don't want to forget my compadre here today. You guys haven't seen him in a little bit. Our newest dad among the group, Abdi Johan. How are you, man?
Hey. How's it going? I'm doing all right. I got like 8 hours of sleep last night, which is just amazing.
Good.
Thanks. Shout out to my daughter for making that happen.
Letting you sleep.
For letting me sleep. We've been doing some sleep training. She's 4 months old, so she's or 5 months. Oh my God, she's 5 months old now.
Time's flown by. I remember when she was born. Time's just flying. You're gonna be on a year pretty soon. You better start planning that birthday.
That's I know, right? You got to start now. Start early.
You got to start early. Start getting the invitations together. You guys are making me feel bad because guys, forgive me for this. These guys have their instruments behind them, and we just happened to have a conversation before the show's talking about how we were all musicians. If I were to pull this green screen down, they'd probably flip. But I've got some stuff back here that I wish I was going to take my background down just so I could look as good as they do with their instruments behind them. But we're not here for music today, even though we did talk about putting together a band for CitizenCon with some folks. So maybe that's something we should follow up on.
We got to make that happen.
We got to make it happen.
Night, like you were saying.
Yeah, that would be great. Awesome. Well, we are here today to talk about the Crucible. As you guys know, last year we started a series called Industrial Strength, where we went through ships like the Orion and the Endeavor, the Starfarer, all the big industrial type ships that were in game. And I got to the beginning, I was setting up shows for this year and I was doing first quarter and I was, I got a new series now. And then I said, wait a minute, we never did the Crucible. And so I was like, oh shoot, we got to squeeze it in before we start the new series. So that's why we are finishing up the Industrial Strength series. Even though I thought we were finishing it up last time, we are finishing up because we didn't get to touch on the Crucible. Now there's been a weird synergy going on between those of us over at Soul Citizens and the folks over at Star Jump.
I know.
because they have been beating me to the punch on these shows. They did a great show on the Endeavor, which I was just glued to watching. And at that point, I contacted Grim and I said, dude, this show was really, really great. I said, we're going to do a show. And he's like, oh, Griff, I know you guys got one coming up. Here's the graphics. I'm like, oh my God, thank you. So he saved us by letting us use a lot of those graphics because their show was just really good. So make sure you guys go back and watch if you're interested in the Endeavor. Darkazog, thank you again for the resub. Thank you. And Veteran 5, thank you for following. We appreciate that. I gotta get that. Whammer's got to come out and say it. Whammer says it better than me. Thank you.
Oh no!
Thank you for the follow. There's Whammer. Okay. All right.
Gets me every time.
So yeah. And so please go see their videos. And your Crucible one is out. Well, it was on Repair, right? The one that you guys did, right? Okay.
Yeah.
So after you see our show or before you see whenever, check out their videos. They're very, very well done with Starlet and Ender and Grim talking about those ships. But today we're going to be wrapping up our series on the Crucible, and we're really focusing on Crucible. We do have a series coming up later. We're going back to finishing up on careers. Repair is one of them. But today we really want to talk about this ship because it's a ship that a lot of people, there are some people who are very interested in it. There are some people who know absolutely nothing about it. This ship was, I think, debuted back in 2015. And because the repair mechanic has been just so far off in the distance, nobody really talks about it. I think people maybe talk about the Vulcan a little bit more, but the Crucible itself has been almost forgotten. And so we're going to go back and look at some videos that were tied to that CIG did show back in the day. Some of you may have never seen these shows because some of these segments, these ship shape segments, were kind of buried in ATVs. And unless you watch the whole ATV, it'd be really easy to miss some of the content that we're going to show you guys today. And then we're going to look at some of the work that Grimm has done. We're going to go back and talk about someone who's actually pre-Grimm, who was the person who was originally kind of sharing a lot of stuff. And Grimm shook his head. He knew exactly who this person was. And we're going to look at some of their work as well. And then we're going to do the Q&A for the Crucible, and then we're going to do our own Q&A if you guys have any questions for us. So, yeah, let's just kind of jump right into it. Thank both of you guys again for being here today. We're going to drop some links in for you. I think my mods are here. I don't see one of them, but I'm assuming he's here. But if not, I'll put him in while these guys are talking. Is he? Okay, cool. Yeah. We're going to go ahead and talk a little bit about this. We're going to go back to the blueprints. Because I really want to go back to showing you, this is how CIG in the early days for a lot of their ships used to show us stuff before we had concept drawings, but then they tried to also kind of create these blueprints and these schematics to kind of give us an idea of what these ships would look like. And they don't do that anymore. I mean, they give us the little brochure and stuff, but it's not the same as when they used to do that. So I'm gonna cut over real quick and kind of show you guys this, and then we're gonna take a look at it. Okay, this is what we used to get back in the day. Okay, was this type of stuff. And again, the link that we're going to drop for you guys, you can go to that link, and that link will show you what these schematics. They're actually bigger than what you're seeing on the screen. I didn't put these guys on the screen with me. I got to put you guys in with me. Let me go back and steal their. Let me go back and steal their video. You know what? This is a new screen, and I forgot I had to load you guys in. Let me go back and get you guys while we're talking. Do me a favor, Abdi. Would you mind reading that for me? What's on the docket? That thing about back to the blueprints, and I'll do the tech. Yeah, and I'll do the tech while you're doing that. That'll be helpful.
Yeah, sure. Sounds good. Okay. Reading this off my drawing tablet. Sorry, I'm looking down, but it says here, a so-called flying toolbox, the Crucible is Anvil Aerospace's first dedicated repair ship. Featuring a rotating control bridge and a detachable pressurized workspace, the Crucible is a versatile mobile garage equipped with repair arms, an operations center, and all the equipment needed to overhaul a damaged craft back into fighting shape. Whether you're restoring a crippled derelict or quickly getting a Hornet back into fighting shape, Crucible is your one-stop repair shop, featuring a series of remote manipulator arms for delicate repair work, clamshell doors that allow for both zero-G and pressurized repair work, and all the tools and EVA equipment needed to get out there and make things go.
Awesome. Let me go to you, Grimm, on these blueprints. When you started doing the work that you did for your animations, were these schematics beneficial to you, or was there some other source that you used to help kind of help? I know, a lot of this stuff was early day stuff, but was this something that you tapped into for using?
Yeah, I always go back to those early things, and especially on the early ships. CIG did a lot of sort of the schematic stuff, but they also did just a lot of technical drawings. For example, the reclaimer and its arm and how the reclaimer's arm works. I discovered through old drawings of CIG, like old concept drawings. So on the Crucible especially, it filled in a lot of the blanks, which is typically what it does. It fills in blanks, you know what I mean? What it can't give you sometimes is maybe how certain things move, the actual animation rigging. But a lot of times it can give you enough clues that I can proceed forward, which is why I always tell people that the stuff I create, especially on the earlier ships like Crucible and stuff, I'm being speculative, but not for the sake of being speculative. I'm trying to educate myself with as much CIG stuff as possible, and then moving forward. So yeah.
And I know that you make every effort to let people know this is what you've come up with, not necessarily CIG's thing, because I think that sometimes the work is so good and it looks so real. It looks like it actually what's the word I want to say? The things that we have visualized materialize when we see your videos, that it's very easy to assume, oh, that's how big it's going to be, or that's the size it's going to be, or that's the shape it's going to be. And you always do kind of put that little waiver out there that says, hey, just understand this is based upon the information that they've given us so far, but it is definitely subject to change. There may not be this color, this size, this shape,
100%.
but understand that. Yeah.
100%. Yeah.
Which is great. I feel like that's super helpful when, a lot of people that love Star Citizen are like, oftentimes it can even be their first jump into getting into game development or learning how the tools of the trade work and that kind of thing. So I always appreciate when content creators go out of their way to kind of like help you think through the process that, you know, you're thinking through, Grim, what, you know, the developers would be thinking through. And I find that to be super fascinating. Always fun stuff.
Yeah, and I always want to be careful too on some of the stuff I create, especially on the earlier concept ships, because I never want to do something and animate something to look a certain way, and then someone goes and pledges for the ship with real money based off false information. So typically I will only animate something if I'm really in like 95 or, you know, about 95% sure this is how it's going to work, Mark. Now, what I try to tell everyone though is that I'm sure it's going to work according to the ancient documents I have access to. Doesn't mean CIG won't change it, but if you're just going off the RSI website and the RSI documents, then this is how it's supposed to work. That's kind of the caveat.
Yeah. Now, Grim, you shared with us before that you have had times where CIG has complimented you, said, hey, you know, great job, blah, 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 blah. Have you ever had a situation where there was something that maybe they kind of pulled you back a little bit and said, nah, you may not want to do it that way, or have you been pretty much for them spot on with most of the stuff that you've done?
Those that have reached out have always just complimented me on maybe how close I was to something, especially things that don't have a lot of documentation out there. Especially, and sometimes it's weird things like you know, like the jump gates, for example, which we don't even know if jump gates are going to be how CIG does jump points anymore, according to them. But I did have one of the people that worked on jump gates for CIG reach out to me and say, oh, wow, your jump gate was really pretty close. You know what I mean? But I think they recognize too that it was close, but not exact, because they know I'm like rebuilding a lot of it from scratch. But it was still close enough that they could tell I looked at research documents and stuff from CIG. So I think they appreciate that. And as an artist myself that works professionally, you know, I've worked in film and television for about 20 years. I want to make sure I'm respecting the artists that are working on this stuff before me and in a more official capacity. You know what I mean?
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Okay. Well, listen, let's go ahead and jump into some of the things that CIG has said about the ship. And, you know, we'll give a little feedback to that. Let me make sure I bring the right one up here, because I told you guys I'm getting to be an old man. I've been and brought the wrong thing up here. Where is it? I don't even, where is it at? Where's the button? Ship shape, teller, screen, crucible. That's not it. Is that it? Is that it? Yeah. We're there.
There we go. Okay.
Man, too many. You know what? I went from the small stream deck to the 20-something stream deck. Man, that was a bad move, dude. My brain is fried. My brain is fried. It's too big. It's too big. Okay, so let's take a look at this, guys. Interesting artwork that was done from the early concept work here. Here we've got like 3 crucibles. I think 1 or 2 of them is actually working on. They're working on a ship up there, right? If I'm not mistaken.
Idris, yep.
Idris, yeah. And this is again early concept stuff, and we're going to talk about the difference in these configurations of the ship as well, because a lot of people don't know that the ship does have a couple different configurations. All right, let's. We read about this flying toolbox part. Let's go to this part about the cab. I know you guys can't read all of that because it may be too small unless you got a big screen. So our wonderful guests here are going to read for us. So Grim, I think it's on you first.
Yeah, I can take this. So part 1, the cab. The Crucible features a carefully designed repair-oriented bridge with multiple operation stations. A single captain can operate both flight and repair control systems by rotating the bridge. By facing forward, the ship can operate as a normal spacecraft. In reverse, the commander can look out over the repair bay and interact with the manipulator arms and other systems. A larger crew can divide these tasks for maximum efficiency. The Crucible's cab section includes storage, living quarters, dedicated EVA lockers, and dedicated EVA lockers intended to allow a multi-person crew to prepare to function in zero gravity, which will be necessary for larger repair and salvage operations. Yeah,
good stuff. Good stuff. Let's talk about because you mentioned about the crew. I think the ship has a minimum crew of 3. There are 3 seats in the front, And if I'm remembering correctly, Grim, is it 1 or 2 in the rear part, in the back part, or I guess they call it the back.
I think it's 2
it
in the rear part.
Okay.
It's either, I know it's 3 on one side and 2 on the other, but I can't remember if the 3 is up, the pilot controlled, or if that's repair arm.
Yeah, I think repair has less.
But,
I think the scarab part has the least amount of seats, and there's more.
Yeah, so I think it would be 2. Yeah,
and this has a maximum crew of 8. I never did ask you, because you were really interested in repair. Do you own a Crucible? Or are you interested in the Crucible? Because you said you were interested in repair.
I do. I'm interested in repair, and I used to have the Vulcan.
Okay.
But I upgraded to the Crucible this last IAE. Because I mean, you talk about this in your video, Grim, with Starlet and Ender, but the Vulcan, and this is not a Vulcan stream, but like it's kind of it's like more for medium repair, and it has the drone bays, but I really, what I want my whole Star Citizen gameplay experience to be like is to be kind of wrapped around like works of industry, so like mining, repair, that kind of thing. And I thought that the Crucible would just be a better fit for that. I feel like I'd be able to do more of that repair, have more, be able to scale a little bit better with the Crucible. So yeah, this ship to me is extremely interesting, and yeah, eight people. I feel like you could probably, take on, like, if you had like 4. I don't know how skeleton of a crew you want to go with this kind of a ship.
I think that probably
depending on
would
where
be
you
it.
are and what system too.
I think it will have a lot to do with how some of the repair arms will be able to be operated via blades, because when you look at the repair gameplay loop, it's really going to consist of a synergy between the repair arm operator and the terminal manager. The terminal manager diagnoses the problem and prepares the repair material for then the robot arm operator to work with to repair the damage. So right away you're talking a 2-person synergy, and then if you multiply that by the amount of robot arms the Crucible has, you really start to get to a large crew number. There's even some documentation that states that the Crucible has a sort of a master control station for drones, even though there's really no drones spec'd for the ship. So it really, the Crucible takes repair to a completely another level past the Vulcan. When you look at ships like the Prospector, Mole, and Orion, there really is kind of a natural curve in terms of more complexity with those ships. It's a little sort of a step up each time. But the Crucible kind of defies that in regards to the Vulcan. I mean, it's like a whole, not only is it a whole nother level up, it's a whole nother ball game.
Yeah, it is.
Oh yeah.
And it's funny that you mentioned that, because I was thinking about, Prospector to Orion is what I was thinking. That there is, we've talked about, when we did the Orion show, we talked about the fact that expertise in the different people who operate the different stations on the ship, and as far as knowledge and how to operate them. And I was going to ask, do you think that this ship may have something very similar? Because one of the things it seems like CIG is doing, and I hate to base it upon mining. I really hate to base it upon mining. But I am saying, if they follow the path that they're doing with mining, you cannot just go and mine. Does that make sense? You can't just jump in a mining ship and say, I'm going to go mine. You really have to learn what, how the gauges work, what the different things are on your HUD. You have to learn about the consumables, the passives, the different heads. There becomes a certain knowledge base or expertise that you gain, and then developing the skill, right, of how to combine all those things and put them together so that they work. And so, I've always said that people who are into mining are people who are into mining. You're not going to get the combat fighter who just, I'm going to go mine. No, usually mining people, that's their thing. Some people can, just like,
I love mining.
Just like combat people. Some people, that's combat, that's their thing, and you got to know what to do in that cockpit, right? Yeah. So for this ship, to your point, Grim, I've wondered, will repair, and you just kind of took us down that path, be beyond just flipping a switch and pointing a laser arm at something and it getting fixed? To me, based off my research, it's probably the most involved of the gameplay loops in terms of
there's really a ton of steps involved in the repair process if we're going off CIG's original documentation on repair.
Yeah.
But if you use that as their plan, then it is a very involved process that to really work as intended would require a minimum of 2 people, unless they fundamentally change the gameplay loop.
Yeah.
Beyond what's spec'd. Yep.
Yeah. And matter of fact, let's talk about the other part of the ship, because we just talked about the cab with 5 seats, right? But I think one of the things that people forget about too is, the physicalized dynamics of the game is also what requires for you to have people.
Yep.
I'm amazed at the people who like to go get in the mole as a solo player and run up and down the ladder and do all that stuff. I'm not trying to do all that work. I'm like, give me 2 or 3 people to get in the ship with me and I'm cool, But I'm saying there will be some people who will probably try to run the Crucible with, like you said, skeleton crew, maybe 2 people, 3 people. But if we have to start thinking about physicalized inventory, loading things, preparing things, repairing things, that's where those maybe extra 1 or 2 bodies might help you out in making life a little bit easier.
And that's just in the ship, Griff. Like there's outside the ship too. If you're in a place like Pyro or somewhere else where you have to think about people who are out there looking for derelict ships, like you need someone in that top turret or bottom turret or something as well, just to be ready. Like it's so much more than just repair. It's the function of the ship too, and the gameplay around it. So I'm curious to see what people can pull off with this one.
Yeah, I think that's especially it's going to be especially important when you consider, multi-crew ship operations. I see the future of that as not everyone being a distinct role, but people having flex roles.
Yes.
So in repair operations, your ship engineer may then turn into a a repair terminal manager, you know what I mean, and is working that station. Maybe your co-pilot goes down there and switches to that job, and then you go back to flight operations and everyone sort of takes their original station in the Crucible. You're really going to have to do that in order to keep your crew count somewhat manageable. Otherwise you're going to be bringing 15 people to some of these ships.
It's going to be an org ship,
It really will, very quickly.
But you know what, the other thing is, to your point, this is what also makes you invaluable when people hire you on, right? If you've got those skills to be able to say, not only can I do this, but I can also do these other 2 things. Well, now when somebody wants to hire you for work, right, your pay can go up a little bit more, right? Okay, let's jump to the workshop, because we're just starting to dabble a little bit into this part of the ship. And I think, Abdi, this is on you this time.
Yeah, I got it. Here we go. Like the Endeavor or the Hull series, the Crucible is designed for future expansion. Included with the standard model is what we've dubbed the Scarab, a dedicated dry workshop designed to support pressurized repair of single-seat fighters such as a Hornet or Gladiator. As an Anvil ship produced for the military, the Crucible is designed with these in mind. 2 internal arms allow repair work to be conducted remotely, while direct access to the cab module, when attached, lets crews get up and close and personal with their charges. External clamshell doors can be opened in depressurized mode, allowing the crew access to repair larger ships, making the Crucible capable of servicing everything from a Constellation to a Bengal. The Scarab can also be dropped in space and can remain a fully functional temporary station while the cab performs other duties.
Okay, awesome. One thing that I'm impressed when we look at your videos later, Grim, I don't know how I missed this, and we've talked about this too, and I want to actually ask you this as a question. Sure. One of the things we've talked about on the show before, especially when we were going through a lot of these industrial ships, was that many of them were concepted prior to metrics finally being finalized in the game, right? So later on, CIG had to go back and, maybe the concept artists, they gave them some rough numbers and they came up with something. And then CIG found out later that maybe we need to make things a little bit wider down this hallway, a little bit deeper. We want to be able to have PvP play, blah, 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 blah. And so many ships like the Starfare, like the Carrack have grown, those earlier ships, right? I was amazed when I saw your video that you put out with your animations. The Crucible's a big ship. It's, it is. I mean, you look at it and you see the little, the Gladius in there, but it is a big ship, right?
It's 90 meters long, as currently listed on the RSI site, but it's also incredibly too small for its ultimate role. It's definitely something I have looked at pretty in depth, and I really think the ship will need to grow to about the 100 and somewhere about the 130 to 150 meter mark, personally, to do its role and have the flexibility needed. Because right now, if you look at the Scarab or the workshop, it's been called both. It, it's so limiting right now in terms of what ships can fit inside it that you almost start to wonder if you should ever take it. You know what I mean? And if you shouldn't just fly with the two primary nacelle arms, because there's two arms tucked into those nacelles that are outside the workshop. It almost makes you wonder, well, should I just fly without the Scarab and just use those arms to repair anything? If they were to scale the ship up to be big enough to where that internal hangar workshop could fit something like a Vanguard or an Ares Inferno or anything like that, you would have to get the ship up, in terms of my measuring, you would have to get the ship to about the 150 meter mark to get, for example, an Ares Inferno and the Scarab, and have enough space to walk around and maneuver repair arms. Because you're going to need a little bit of room. It can't just be end to end. But I don't think that's completely unreasonable. For a ship like this, I think this is the Orion of repair, and there's really no reason why it can't grow. The flip side to that, though, is I do think, and I've said this several times on our Star Jump Station show, that I do think CIG is, at least for the foreseeable future, done with 150 plus meter ships, like new ones. That's not to say that old ones can't grow bigger, like the Merchantman and stuff, but I think the days of, for example, I don't foresee a new concept repair ship coming out anytime soon that is like capital sized. Sometimes people will say, well, is there going to be a capital repair ship? I don't ever see that happening. I think 150 meter mark is going to be about the limit now. We've seen that with the Odyssey. We've seen it with the Liberator. I think they're trying to bring the size of these ships a little bit more in line. I think a lot of that has to do with crew count. And the Crucible is a lot like the Endeavor in that it's one of those old holdovers that really needs to be big to do all of its functions. You know what I mean? So it kind of almost is against the ethos that they seem to be moving in now. So while it will grow, I think there's still going to be a top limit there.
And part of those considerations that you're talking about, it's not just the crew size, but it's also, are you thinking like, server stability, making sure that you have rendering, all that kind of thing.
Exactly. This is the type of ship, for example, that is going to benefit a lot out of, from things like, interior and exterior ship culling and all that kind of stuff. Because there is a lot going on here.
And those things just keep getting kicked down the line a little bit.
They do. Yeah.
It's a lot of work. They're working on it.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, listen, let's go ahead and we're going to take you guys back in the time machine here. We're going to go back and take a look at one of the early videos CIG did. This is from 2015. It's a ship shape with Jared, and I forget the gentleman's name, Hernandez. I forget his name, Rodriguez. I forget who he's talking to, but they're going to give us, this is like the first time we really got to see white box. I think it was,
so early.
Great, but it's really early. It's really early.
Randy
I worked on this for the last week or something like that. Yeah. It stays true to the information that we have here, and it'll just give you an idea of what CIG is thinking about this ship. And then we're going to come back, look at a couple more videos, and then we're going to do some more talking. By the way, there's a couple things about.
Just real quick. Big Black Gaming, thank you for the 500 bits. Comic Stud, thank you for the 100 bits. And Shin Riku, thank you for the 1 month subscription. We appreciate that, and the follow. Thank you guys so much for that.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Okay, were you going to say something real quick, Abdi, or no?
Well, just I would just take note of like the interesting aspects of the ship that animation things that Grim was talking about, where they're speculating on things in this video, and I'm really curious to see, what happens to some of these ship functionality aspects. So
Absolutely.
We'll see.
Okay, all right, gang, here we go.
On this episode of Ship Shape, we're sitting down once again with technical designer Randy Vasquez, who's going to take us through the very, very early white box of the Crucible interior. Randy, how you doing?
Doing good. How about yourself?
Good. Good. You ready to do this one more time?
Let's do this.
All right.
Today we'll be looking at the Crucible, and kind of you can see right here, this is the kind of overall layout of the Crucible itself. So let's actually get you in. Actually, let me go to this real quick. So this kind of just breaks down the levels and layers of the Crucible. Again, this is really early concept, really early on, just designs in general. So we're gonna go ahead and close that out and then jump in game.
All right.
So kind of what I've been working on is just building out the interior layouts. This is about maybe a week or so, maybe a little bit more.
You haven't been on
into
this
the
very
process.
long.
No.
This is very early in the process.
It really is, and this kind of touches some salvage, it touches repair, and probably a few other systems we can't talk about yet. So we're gonna get into it. So as you can see here, we're gonna go ahead and enter through the rear ramp, and this is gonna be kind of where ships are inside of it. So single-seater ships will be sitting inside of this thing.
Hornets, Gladius.
Yeah, things like that, smaller ships that can be repaired internally. As you can see, as we first enter into this area, we have some cargo, we have where equipment would be, we have some cranes and everything set up so that way like arms can come out and kind of operate in that area.
Okay.
So as we continue through, we can see that we have some repair pumps, we have some fuel pumps, we have coolant pumps, so anything that a ship would need to also help with refitting and resupplying. So that will also be a function of this type of ship. Okay. Now, since they're going to start on the bottom, we're going to look at we have some components on the sides, we have some airlock entryways. Basically, every single entry into the ship from the outside is going to be an airlock. Just because being a repair ship, they need to be able to get in and out of the ship at any time. So you'll also be seeing a lot of personal storages around the area, so that way they can put on suits and have equipment right there and they can re-equip right before they exit the door.
This work area it's not open like this, it has doors. So
yes, it'll actually be enclosed that can actually open up as well.
That's just another reason for the airlocks, because yeah, exactly. All
Yeah, some of this stuff is going to be actually open to space, while others are not going to be open to space, and we're still very much on designing a lot of the exterior as well as the interior at the same time. It's actually been really cool. Ryan Church is the one working on this ship, and he's done some awesome work. So if you look up his stuff, you'll be able to see some of the stuff he's contributed to.
Constellation, Idris.
Yeah, not even just us, like his other work. So it's pretty awesome. I mean,
he's kind of good.
He kind of knows how to do things. So this whole area is actually a module that can come in and out, or detach and be attached. So actually, these stations up here are actually part of the module that come off. So these are going to be the internal arm operators that will actually be able to get into the rest of the ship as well. And those arm operators will be taking care of like these cranes that are built along the sides, and then they'll be kind of manipulating them. So let's get inside the ship.
Okay.
So like I said before, everything has airlocks. We have 2 entryways on either side. Ideally, I kind of see it working kind of like how like a kitchen crew would work, where they go in one door and they only exit the other door, so that way the crew is always trained to kind of do that. It kind of makes sense flow-wise, right? Like if the crew is trained that way, then it just makes it easier. I'm like, all right, I'm entering. You never have to worry about yelling, make a hole, and then everybody kind of get congested.
Exactly.
Now this middle area right here is an airlock. That is actually an elevator. So like the Constellation, you know how the middle part of the Constellation kind of just drops down so that people can load stuff on? So that kind of follows suit actually. As you see here, I have 36 SCU that's able to go on this elevator, and this will be able to load things. What is this? Oh, it's another entry. So this will be an entryway, like an elevator for personnel, and then they enter through here. As you can see, kind of just shares that space. So this first area is going to be, as it says, loading and storage. We could load storage here, we could have equipment here. It kind of depends on what the crew wants to do. And this is going to be where like EVA suits and everything is stored.
Okay.
Right. This central area is another elevator that is going to be serving the whole entire ship. So this will take you actually into the rest of the ship. So let's go up.
Okay, this is in the center of that cylindrical area. All right.
Yep. So going up, we have engineering. So engineering will have a lot more components and piping and everything to basically keep the ship running. So as you see here, we have like an engineering station, and this is where the engineer is going to basically have most of his job. So there's also right here a repair station where they're going to be going through and doing anything to get ready for preparing for repairs and everything like that. And you had mentioned that there's going to be actually a post soon.
Yeah, by the time folks see this, hopefully, there will be a detailed post on the repair system by our own Todd Pappy. So you'll get to read about repair gels and all this stuff that you have to do in preparation of repair.
Nice.
So that's what this station's for.
So in engineering, also it connects through LX again the internal arm operations, and I'm kind of just going to show both sides to show that they both kind of feed into this this area is meant so that you can get to multiple parts of the ship multiple ways. And then this is observation deck, and we're going to have hopefully some screens set up here so that way if anybody's walking around doing something like that, you can check the status. Kind of like when you're at the doctors and you have the screen set up and like, okay, this patient is set up like this.
Yeah.
It kind of has that type of we want that functionality.
Okay.
So hopefully just information everywhere, right? It's a repair ship. People should know what the status of repairs are no matter where you are. So continuing on with engineering, we have components off to the wings, and this is going to be like where fuel is, where the coolants are, where ballast is. This is going to have like the drone launch bays for the front of the ship. You can go on this side as well. Again, feeds into the rooms, so that way personnel space. You can even get up to the other level above, which we'll talk about in a few seconds. So the one thing that's about this room is besides the drone launch, ballast and power and fuel and stuff, this is actually where the engine array works. So as you can see here, this is the engine array, and we have large engines, one top, one bottom, and this thing actually slides across a track. So basically this thing will slide over here or slide back here, and this is going to be based on the mass. So if the center of mass changes, then the engine arrays actually will move based on where their center of mass is.
Gotcha. And this is because we're taking entire other ships
Yep.
into our hold.
Yep.
It's a little more than just cargo.
Mm-hmm.
Gotcha. All right.
Nope. So that is the main purpose. So when this thing needs to go in repair mode though, then basically this hole will line up with the center of the engine array.
Okay.
And then the player should be able to climb into it and then do your own repairs for your own ship if you need
Gotcha.
to. So that's kind of a unique thing for our game. We're not going to talk about drones for a while because that's going to be in another doc. So let's, instead of going to the elevator, let's go ahead and go up here now. So basically, we're up here now, and a lot of these things you won't be able to see in the real ship. This is all just very much early on white box stuff. So
This is about the earliest white box you can have, guys. So
yeah, it's
you
pretty
said you
early on.
wanted to see how the sausage was made. This is as early as the sausage is being made here.
So this actually goes into the crew quarters, and 2 crew members would be sleeping in this area, and just some little lounge area for their own. And then if they want to read a book, they don't want to lay down or something like that. But each individual cruise pod will be its own dedicated escape pod as well. So
Okay.
if catastrophic failure happens, then they're able to jump in there and kind of get out of Dodge. So this is the crew common area where they would cook meals, they would eat, store food, kind of have like a little lounge where they can just chill and chat and stuff. Bathrooms, showers, all that stuff would be in this area right here. And then on the other side, more of the same. That way I kind of keep it separated a little bit.
Yeah.
So they can kind of have some privacy, but then still have dorm mates. So let's go up to the last floor, which is the bridge.
Okay.
All right, so now the bridge is unique, right? In that it is meant to actually rotate.
Okay.
So we're still figuring out the designs, whether it's going to be the interior only rotating, or if it's going to be the whole entire top part rotating. And
Gotcha.
the reason why this would be rotating is we have 3 crew members up here, right? And each crew member can kind of change what they want to do on the job, right? So like the middle seat would be the pilot seat, dedicated pilot seat. And the other guys, they'd be doing arm operations, they would be doing drone operations, So various functions would be handled by the guys on the side, as well as, one could be a co-pilot, one could be helping out engineering. The engineering station is probably the main station that's doing just that, but then also the engineer would probably go over and take care of repair preparations and probably anything else they want to do, right? Even though this ship is only manned by 4 people, there's at least 7 stations on this thing.
Yeah,
So that way people will need to actually switch around, do different things. So this ship will keep people busy.
So you've got the arrows on the floor there. I should have guessed it was going to turn around.
Yeah, it's one of the things we're working on. So as we said before, airlocks everywhere. We have escape pods here, 2 more over here, so that way the crew can get out if they're either in the bridge or if they're in the crew quarters. So there's always something they can reach, right?
Gotcha.
So right here, this airlock actually will take them out to this area right here. So if there's something they need to get to really quickly, they can EVA out, and this is right on top of the observation deck. And again, they can kind of EVA out again and go down to different levels. People I see kind of swarming all over the place and kind of just going from there. So we kind of wanted to keep that as in it is a repair ship. It is meant to be entered and exited quickly, to be able to get to different areas, different levels really easily based on what the needs of the ship is.
Very cool.
So I think Ryan had talked about things where the seats themselves are actually going to be on tracks. So based on what is happening with the ship, then basically you get better visibility. So like these things will be moving forward, or these things will be moving backwards. Like there's still a bunch of things that we have to work out and kind of go from there. So, and then once these things are turned over here, then this is the view that they'd be seeing. So they can kind of overview everything and look over everything. All right, so let's do something real quick. I want to show you guys kind of, this is what the ship kind of looks like when we have other ships. As you see, I started with some smaller ships, kind of placing them around inside here. I have like an Argo in there. I have some other things like the Constellation, the Retaliator, and we can kind of see with the thing open, these things can fit up to a point. And then that's when these arms kind of will unfurl and start doing some of the repair. So, and for even larger ships, drones and these repair arms will be used.
Gotcha.
So it really depends on the different type of repair that they will need to get done. They'll use different tools to repair it.
Gotcha. And so this is why you'd want the command module to rotate, because when you have such a large ship in here, the existing observation deck, when you end up looking at the underside of the Retaliator there.
Yep.
So, gotcha.
So really quickly, I'm going to actually turn on this thing so you guys can see, you guys get a good look of kind of what we've been working with and just building up right here. And let's go ahead and turn it on there. So now we can kind of see all of the stuff fitting inside the ship. So we've been kind of rebuilding the ship piece by piece, kind of just based on functionality and where we kind of saw things fitting.
Very cool.
One thing we didn't talk about was the turrets up top.
Turrets.
So all the turrets are going to be remote turrets. So that way these people on the side right here, when they're not doing other things, they can actually turn into turret gunners, and without switching from their stations. Everything's going to be super modular, as in like people are going to be switching jobs really quickly on the ship just to kind of feed the need of the ship at that time.
Very cool.
And that is about it for this. I really hope you guys enjoyed it.
Yeah, man, Randy. I don't think you said enough. We and everybody in the community appreciate you taking the time to do these for us. Yeah, this is an exciting ship. I think by the time people see this, the ship will be on sale already. You should have the design doc on repair from Todd Pappy. So yeah, it's an exciting ship, a whole new avenue of gameplay, and definitely excited to have it aboard. So Randy, thanks a lot, man.
Thank you.
All right, back to you guys.
Now, correct me if I'm wrong, but I would have swore when they went over to go show like where the Retaliator and stuff was, he said, "We have an Argo down there." Did you guys hear him say that?
I missed that
Yeah.
one.
I would have swore
Yeah,
he
he
said
did.
there's an Argo down there. I'm like, an Argo? The Argo wasn't out back then. So I'm just, I have to go back and watch
Oh,
that
little
video
slip.
again.
I thought he did. I thought he said that there was.
He did. He says an Argo. I'm going to go back and watch that later on and see, because I'm pretty sure that's
Yeah,
what he
oh.
said, which is kind of funny. Yeah. Oh, Threx says, yeah, he said he saw an Argo down there. That's,
Oh,
Yeah.
wow.
that's interesting for 2015.
That's cool.
Yeah, that's pretty. So leaks. Yeah, Lucy. Yeah, leaks. Yeah, it's a big leak. We completely missed that, I think, back in the day. Grim, let me bounce to you again here. When you were preparing your, because we're going to be taking a look at your stuff in a few minutes. Was this helpful in the sense of you seeing that was this part of your research, was to see this stuff, the early days of this stuff?
Oh, yeah, it answers a lot of questions too. Just even some of the little offhanded comments, like when he talks about the rotating bridge and he talks about how the engines are able to gimbal and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Again, that cues me on how the ship can possibly animate, because I like to give the ships, not only do I retexture them, but I try to give them, some animation functionality as well. So these videos are always super helpful with that, because I'll have a lot of people reach out sometimes and say, well, you posted, I'll give you a good example. So when I had the Crucible in the Aegis cinematic, I had someone message me and said, hey, you have the Crucible flying backwards. And I said, well, it's possible, because I don't, I'm not familiar, completely intimately familiar with every single ship. But at the same time, I went back and looked through my research, and CIG has concept art of the Crucible flying in both directions. And so I was like, oh, okay, that saved me. I've had the same thing on the Orion, where people say those things don't spin on the Orion, but then I found documentation where CIG says they do in fact spin. So these old videos are really helpful with getting those small details down.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Abdi, what did you think of the thing for shifting the center of gravity of the ship, that the engines actually move back and forth down the side of the ship? Did you catch that?
I did, yeah. I thought that was super interesting, especially considering, this ship is kind of unique because on its own, it can be so light. Oh, my camera got a little funky there. But on its own, it can be so light. But, you put a bigger ship on it, and it's taking on more mass. And I'm really curious to see, if you do take this thing, in Atmo, if you take it planet side or something like that, and you have a ship on it, maybe people try to use this as like some kind of weird pocket carrier or something like that. That should change something, I guess.
Well, imagine forgetting to change that center of gravity, and you do go into, what I mean? All of a sudden, your weight shifts. All of a sudden, when you get in atmosphere, you're like, what the heck's going on with my ship, right? That's pretty.
Yeah,
cool
so I think
stuff.
it's an interesting consideration, and it's cool to see it so early. For them to at least mention that so early, so that we can kind of get an idea of.
One of the things, kind of leading off of that, Abdi, that cue me that the ship will need to grow, because it's not necessarily that it needs to even grow just because, it needs to fit bigger ships in the hangar, because fine, it could just be for single seat gladiators and gladiuses and arrows and stuff like that. But what really cues me off is when I watch that video, and for example, they'll show the crew sleeping quarters, where in the crew sleeping quarters, they have these very kind of small little pods. But we know that Anvil doesn't do that anymore on the large Anvil ships, at least according to the Carrack. And I would have to imagine they're going to use the Carrack and Liberator as their, design cue for this ship. And if you've obviously have ever been in a Carrack, the sleeping quarters, those bunk bed things, they're quite large. They're pretty big pods, and much larger than what we were seeing in that video. So to sleep, a crew of 8, already that room would need to be double the size, unless they take a left turn and do sleeping pods that are completely different than any other Anvil ship. You know what I mean? So those are some of the things when I watch those videos that I cue off of when I do sort of estimates on size and stuff. It's not always just like, oh, will this ship fit into it or whatever. Another place I look is I look at when we're talking about metrics, I think the Carrack is really kind of the top end in terms of metrics. For example, it's I think 120 something meters long. It's 90, I forget, or 70 something meters wide. The Crucible is only like 50 meters wide, so in 90 meters long. So it has room to grow and still fit into a large hangar, on a
Right.
planet-side surface. So they've got enough slack in there to grow and allow that interior space that we were seeing in that video to breathe a little bit. Because while it seemed big when he was going through it, if you were to replace those sleeping pods or any of that stuff with what Anvil actually uses in the Carrack, you're immediately too cramped now for AI to navigate the ship.
Mm-hmm.
So that's the type of stuff I read when I watch those old videos.
Which is super cool that you go that in depth to like make kind of get an idea of spacing requirements and read off of that. That's I love that there's so much research that goes into it. It's not just like scanning something or just doing things willy-nilly or whatever.
Yeah.
I'm sure you take artist interpretation.
I do.
That goes into it, which is cool. I think that's a great thing to do. But yeah,
and we know that's something CIG does across the board now. They've actually said even recently in the last couple of months, I think, in one of the last Inside Star Citizens of last year, they said that the whole sea underwent a slight corridor enlargement for AI past its original build out. So we know they're still actively doing that for AI. Yeah.
Alrighty. Well,
but another thing that was interesting in that video that I will point out is they pointed out that that repair terminal manager station, and it was a station that was all textured in red. That particular station, I noticed he only pointed out one of those, which makes me wonder if there is only one material terminal manager and then maybe multiple arm operators, and that terminal manager can send materials to specific arms. I was originally thinking maybe you'd need one terminal for each arm, but maybe it's one terminal for all arms, which would save on crew capacity.
It would.
That is interesting. And that kind of goes into a conversation that you had with Starlet a little bit in terms of like, I think you were saying, will this, well, you're talking about drones specifically, but kind of with the whole arms thing, like, will those drones be something where we get to manually be able to operate them, the way that you would like a prospector or when you're mining or something, you go into mining mode, or if it's something where you just kind of like tell those arms what to do and they do that.
Yeah, I think me and Starlet may have a slight, sort of opposing views on that, where she sort of thinks that it's going to be more of an automatic thing. You tell them what to do. I think that they are going to be manually controlled, and there's two reasons I think that's going to be the case. The first is that we know repair is going to use the same system that mining does. There's essentially a stripping laser and then a repairing laser. Essentially, sort of like your mining laser and your gravity extracting laser. So it's the same sort of give and take away laser system. So there's going to be some activeness from the user in terms of when to activate one versus the other. But then another thing they specifically say in the Crucible jump point, which is from way back in 2015. It's a really in-depth jump point issue on the Crucible. They say that the arms will operate in a way where you can point to a target. So let's say you point to a thruster nodule on a ship. And while you position the head of the arm, so the actual repair head to that position, the rest of the arm will automatically gimbal and do whatever it needs to do to put the head where it needs to be. So that insinuates that it will be very much like the mining laser in that you're driving the head and the arm does whatever it needs to do automatically to get there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Nice.
And they specifically mention IK rigs. So inverse kinematic rigs, which are the animation rigs and joints that dictate how something like that moves. The fact that they reference those in that early on, back in that jump point, probably means they have an idea of how those arms are actually going to function. It's not to say that all this doesn't change, but according to that documentation, these would be manual arms that you drive up there, you strip off materials, and then once your terminal manager feeds you the repair materials, you then inject the the repair materials.
Wow. Like you said, boy, this is no small task to do repair with this ship. TSOP. Okay. Well, look, we're going to take a look at, let's see who's that. Oh, Thrakazad, thank you again for the gifted sub. Thank you so much for the comics.
Hey, thank you.
Thanks, Thrak. Listen, we're going to look at another video, and we'll talk while we're watching this video, guys. And you guys can hear our comments. But this is a video that was done by Teller. Many of you know Teller from the earliest days of Star Citizen was one of those people who would produce animations for the community for us to be able to kind of visualize and see what these ships look like beyond just a concept drawing or a schematic. And so we want to take a quick look at Teller's video. And the uniqueness about this video is that he does take us inside the ship. And even though we saw the white box version, it does help when you see the walls and things up a little bit. So we're going to take a look at that.
He's done some cool stuff.
He has. He's done some really cool stuff. All right, there's a good size comparison there he's got of the Hornet out there. If there's anything you guys see that you want to point out, feel free.
Well, one thing that I do love that Teller does, oh, sorry, Abdi, I was just going to say that I love that he sets the ships in a place, gives you that context. Scale. I always love that he did that.
And kind of speaking towards that, I like that, there is some talk about different ways that you can access ships, whether you EVA out to them or things like that. And it's interesting that he put the ship on top of the hangar bay there, of the Scarab. I don't know if that's going to be something that people will do to so you can have maybe another ship on top that someone's working on, EVAing or something like that. So let's say you have two ships, two small ships inside, and then you have another ship on top of the closed hangar door or something like that. So someone can work on it outside, just kind of have it all localized.
Something quick and fast that you can do. Who knows?
Yeah.
Now, there's something interesting there because he has a fourth seat there.
Yeah.
And I've always wondered if that's
because he only has one seat in the back, so maybe that's kind of where he interpreted that.
You know what? Is it on that? Maybe it's on that thing that spins around. Because look how it's fitting into the floor there.
Yeah, the hollow model that's currently on the RSI site has these internals in it, and sometimes when these hollow models are put out, I have noticed that certain things are in the wrong position. For example, thrusters can sometimes be in the wrong position, seats and stuff. I'm not sure if that's what's happening here, but it has happened before.
Gotcha.
Origin ships suffer from that really badly when I'm bringing them into my 3D pipeline. The thrusters are always in the wrong spot and I have to reposition them.
Is there a reason for that? Is it just because they're taking old models and just throwing them quickly into a visualizer of some sort, or throwing a skin on them to turn them into a hollow?
Yeah, I'm not totally sure, but I was talking to someone today who helps me out a lot with 3D stuff, and he's really good at getting these CIG ships in a good place. And he just said it had something to do with the way CIG uses its flagging system. It was a little bit above my head, but
sure.
Yeah.
Now this area here, this is down below. This is the cargo area.
Crew
I guess
quarters.
He was talking about in crew quarters. Okay.
Yeah, was it Ryan or something? The guy from the ship shape video was talking about how giving you good access to looking at the ship from whatever floor you're on. Whatever ship is being worked on. I think that's a really cool design idea.
And I hope
idea.
I hope they keep that. Sometimes I wonder, for performance reasons, if they'll start doing less of that, simply because when you do have windows that look out into complicated areas, your viz area has to be rendered now. I'm sure John Crew looks at some of these old ships that are pre-John Crew being the pipeline director and is like, but you can help with that sometimes with just making smaller windows instead of big panoramic and stuff like that.
It does help.
It is one of those things you tell people whenever you bring them into the game, hey, look outside that window. That's stuff that's happening out there. That's
for sure.
which is cool.
It's one of those wow moments for sure.
Now,
For sure.
I'm gonna stop here just for a second, guys. I'm gonna go back a little bit. Is this a factor? Because I always thought that this was a little tight. The scale here. I'm glad he puts like the buggy in there and everything to give you some ideas of scale.
It's definitely too tight when you're considering things like even SDF shields, for example, if the ship was still powered on. But more importantly, ships can, now we don't see them because they're turned off. However, if you bring the ship into Blender or a 3D application, you can see it and you have to delete it. Ships have essentially what's called a proxy mesh around them, which that proxy mesh can be anything from collision to other things. And that proxy mesh sticks off of the ship, a little bit of a ways. And I could tell you from that one internal hangar shot, the proxy mesh would have been intersecting with the door.
Sure.
Okay.
Yep.
Okay.
I mean, that's like, there's just so little clearance too with getting that top turret there.
Yep.
Like, yeah. That's why I'm like, if they want to do that Vanguard, like you were saying, like Vanguards, I fly Harbinger quite a bit, and I'm just like, they're so much bigger than you think they'd be.
Yeah, well, and even if you didn't go Vanguard size on one of my behind the scenes shows I did where I just personally stream and kind of talk ships, it wasn't an actual Star Jump station. I had someone ask, would an Ares fit in there? And for it to fit and still have a little room for someone to walk around the ship just a little bit, the ship had to grow to almost 130 meters for the Ares. So that gives you some idea.
I would almost think that maybe it's me, but I would hope that the Crucible would be designed to be able to, within the scarab or the hangar area, hold medium fighters at the very least, because there's a lot of dialogue. And we get to the Q&A, they'll talk about the Hornet and ships like that, the Gladiator, things like that. But if it's just for small and regular size fighters, I think it'd be very limiting. To me, I think they've got to grow it out at least for medium, like you said, a Harbinger or something like that without a problem.
One thing I will add, because sometimes people point this out about the Crucible, is that if you pay close attention, you'll notice there's two different workshops that are shown in different videos. One is a much more like box shape, which is the animation I did that you showed at the beginning of the show. And there's another one that's a little bit more of a wedge-shaped scarab workshop that doesn't have a roof on it. In all my, and even in the most recent IAE, the Crucible hollow model that was on display used the wedge-shaped hangar. But funny enough, if you go back and read through all the CIG documentation, the wedge shape was actually where they started, and they wanted to go into more of an industrial look, so they then changed it and updated it to the square look, the one that I went with. But then it's interesting that they show in just the most recent IE the wedge shape again. So I'm that's kind of the big question mark is which scarab are they going with? The problem with the wedge shape one is it is actually much smaller than the box one. So there's a little question mark there.
Well, let's look at it a little bit here. There we go there.
All right, so that's the box one.
You mentioned this in your in the Star Jump Grim video that I think we're taking a look at in a little bit here, but just seeing those two different versions, like the one that I feel like you preferred, the boxier one, which I do as well, getting that space in there, and even just the look of it I don't know. That industrial look is nice.
This is like one of those ships, much like the Orion, where I think its beauty is in how industrial and ugly it is. You know what I mean? That's what makes it look so cool.
Oh yeah.
Question is, and I'll ask this because I don't remember seeing it in the documents. Maybe I've just missed it. But I've always wondered, because of the design of this ship, we always think of it repairing spaceships, being out in space. But that front ramp implies that there's also the fact that something can be driven into it. So are we also talking about tanks and vehicles coming in to be repaired here, Grim?
There's definitely people that have talked about, they said in that video that Randy Vasquez, he said that you could leave the scarab, in orbit, but like a lot of people said, there's also no reason why you couldn't go down to an outpost or someplace where a ground-based battle and park this thing slightly behind the front lines,
Mhm.
leave it down there, and now ground vehicles can go repair there. There's absolutely nothing to state that you can't do that. The ramp itself, while they've never specifically said there's a ramp on the front of this,
Mhm.
this is one of those situations where if you really tear the model apart, which
Mhm.
I've done pretty extensively with this ship, you tear the model apart, there are hinges up there for that ramp. So they've built in some blocking for that to rotate down.
Mm.
So ultimately, I think that is the intention. Yeah.
Okay. Okay. So that's that.
And I think, I mean, they talk about it, like even just the idea of bringing on supplies.
Mm-hmm.
They do talk about having an elevator that has the 36 SCU, which I think is like some of the old metrics that they were going by for that. But like being able to bring on a cart or like, bringing on supplies. I don't know if, at some point you'll be using the carts or something like that, or if they'll have a vehicle that does transport of components and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like it would be really helpful to have a ramp on this one.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, and Abdi, that brings up another really good point. Remember the thing that we've been told time and time again when it comes to ships like the Kraken,
Mm-hmm.
and the Kraken's a great example. The Kraken has full repair capabilities as well.
Right.
Now it is limited to ships that can fit on its deck or in its hangars, but it's one of the few ships that has full 100% repair capability. But one thing they're always remember to say is that the repair materials fit within the Kraken's hold.
Right.
The Kraken's got those 4 big massive fuel tanks, but when it refuels ships, it's pulling it from those tanks.
Mm-hmm.
One thing that I don't see on the Crucible when I really dissect it is I don't see a big cargo area anywhere.
Mm-hmm.
And with this being such a a big repair ship, especially if it's repairing something like an Idris or any sort of capital, there's really not a lot of room for repair materials, especially when you consider now the boxes on the back of the raft being 32 SCU
Mm-hmm.
and being sort of a standard size cargo box, which could maybe hold repair materials.
Yeah.
I don't know. You couldn't fit too many of those boxes, even in the Scarab. So
Right.
I think this ship is going to have to grow just to get
Just because of that.
holdings for repair materials.
Mm-hmm. Just
Yeah.
for that. Yeah.
And even like components, like if you go to IAE or something like that, and you look at the components of some of those capital class size ships, and it's just
Yeah.
like, if
They're
you want to,
huge.
they're huge. If you want to, if something gets shot through or completely destroyed, like maybe repair what's there, or if you need to replace it, like those components, you're going to have those on board.
Yeah.
Yeah.
If you're going to want to swap those out.
Can we?
Oh yeah, I mean they could easily, one capital component like a jump drive or something can be as big as an arrow in some certain, some
Right, yeah.
circumstances.
That's true.
I feel like we're so used to right now seeing things through the Mobi-Glass, or like you just click on something to swap it.
Yeah.
But getting used to that idea that like probably by the time that this is live, we'll be thinking more of like physicalized components where you got to bring extra with you or be able to fix what you got.
Right.
Yeah. And I mean, in this configuration you're seeing here, obviously, is sort of what I call the capital configuration, which in the original Jump Point magazine, they actually refer to the Crucible as having 3 variants. A small hangar variant, a large hangar variant, and a capital variant. I think it's the same ship. They just has different modes, obviously, but
Yeah.
That's what you're seeing here.
Yeah.
Like I would think that if you had components, they would be on that first floor, like in that cargo area that's on the first floor of the Crucible. Like that's where that cargo bay is supposed to be for like components like that. At least that's what they showed in that video earlier, but I don't know how much you're really going to be able to store in there.
I think that's what goes back to the whole point of the fact that it will have to grow just because of that, if nothing else. I do want to ask a question. I've heard people say this in the past about this ship, that and I want to make sure I'm saying this right, that they think that they can manufacture things on this ship, that the ship makes things for ships. And my understanding is that this is a repair ship. That's its main function. Is that correct as far as you guys know?
I think that's both true and not true. It's not true in the sense that it cannot, I don't believe it can manufacture a component.
Right.
Yeah.
Like it can't manufacture a jump drive, but what it can do, and it's done through the repair manager terminal is it can manufacture materials. So, for example, if you bring, I think the idea is if you bring aluminum and laranite and
some mix it all
whatever,
together.
and you combine those, you're able to then manufacture, a microfiber alloy plate.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Right.
So there's some manufacturing going on, but it's not in terms of like full components or anything.
Okay. Very cool. And then the last video that we have here is when you were just talking about Grim, where we get an example of the ship working on a cap.
Right.
And this is the one that kind of blew my mind when I saw a scale of this ship. That didn't.
Yep.
And so, like you said, until you see it next to something, you kind of don't realize how big this ship is.
Yeah. I think the Idris is 242 meters long versus the 90 meters long of the Crucible. The thing about the Crucible that can be a little deceiving, though, is that it's got a pretty wide beam, and when you get those gangly arms out there, it's quite large. Its overall footprint is large. So
yeah.
So if you like are a really big guy and you need someone to really work those shoulders,
that's right.
It's kind of
Yeah,
absolutely.
One other question, and maybe you guys can answer this. I know they talked about having this great view, being able to see when you're repairing, but I'm looking at those arms reaching out to that Idris. I mean, are you going to have some magnifying binocular or something, because to know where those lasers are hitting and hitting the right spot, or is there some indicator that will tell you when you're, welding or doing the right thing at a certain location? Because that's a good distance from the Idris to where the operators would be sitting.
I would think there's cameras on the end of the arms.
Okay.
And I feel that way because we sort of got a little bit of a clue that CIG's has that on mind, because when they last showed us the Hull C, I think last year in ISC, they actually gave a brief hint, kind of teaser, where they showed working security cameras on the Hull C, looking out over some of its cargo arrays.
Right.
So maybe hopefully we'll start to get that in ships, in the future, where you can actually have cameras in certain areas, and which would be really cool on large ships for, security reasons or whatever. But obviously for the Crucible, it'd be very helpful.
Yeah. And I figure for the drones, if nothing else, the drones will have to have some ability to do that as well. So, but I was just kind of curious about this one.
Yeah.
I don't know if you would be using like visual your own eyesight the way that you would if you were in a regular turret. I feel like this would probably be something like a remote turret view kind of thing. I don't know. It's pure speculation, but what do you think about that?
That makes sense. Like you said, if there's cameras on the end of it and you're looking at a remote turret type screen or something, that makes good sense. Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like one operator per arm, right? Like it's not, or would it scale, you think?
Yeah, I think it's one operator per arm. Primarily because when they do mention the inverse kinematic controls for the arms and how you're going to drive the head of the arm to a location and the rest of the arm will auto gimbal to that location, they said specifically the reason they were going that route, and this is all in that jump point issue, they say specifically to make the controls manageable for a user. I would worry that two arms would start to get pretty unwieldy. But you bring up a good point, because that makes me wonder why the drones have four arms and what are the other arms for on the drones.
Yeah, right.
So I don't have the answers, but it's definitely a good question.
Yeah, that's
good.
Yep. Okay.
Certainly a little bit like towards Starlet's point of maybe if it was automatic at all, then it would just be you tell it where to go and all four of those arms animate in some way to make it look as if this or that.
Maybe drones function that way.
Yeah, we'll see. Yeah.
I miss the old drones that we used to have, the old repair drones back in the day. I don't know if you guys remember them. Do you remember them, Abdi?
I don't. So I came into this at the end of 2015, and I don't remember. I didn't have any ships that, and like I wasn't tracking the way that I'm tracking the game right now.
What was the name of at Cry-Astro? You don't remember the drones would fly out over your ship and they'd put the laser beam on your ship and repair it?
Is this in the hangars? You said that they had these in the hangars?
No. This is when we had Cry-Astro Station, which was the repair where you had to go to get repairs. You weren't getting repairs.
Yeah, I don't remember this.
Oh my goodness! Yeah, you go to Cry-Astro Station.
You don't remember that,
Grim?
the Aegis? I know that was before my
Was
time
before your
in the
time
game.
too?
Were they the
Oh.
actual
Pull up the
Aegis
vid,
repair
Griffin.
drones?
Let's see it.
Yeah, okay. I wish I had video. I wish some
Yeah.
of you in chat might remember what you would do. There was an actual station that was out between Yella and Port O, whatever. You'd go there to get repaired. They had about 12 platforms out there, like 4 big ones and 8 small ones. You'd land there, and then you'd ask to be repaired. And then these literal drones, like the kind of drones we have today, right, with the 4 blades on them. There's 4 of them. 4 of them would fly out. And they take each quarter of your ship, and then these laser beams would come out, and then you would literally see your ship get repaired, and then those ships they'd go back and fly back in, and you take off. And I was saying,
I know we're supposed to get that back. I think it will be. I think the drones might be different. I think they might be the larger Aegis repair drones that we've seen on the Vulcan and stuff like that. But I'm sorry, I missed that.
Gomab posted it.
Gomab posted it. Oh,
in the broadcast.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
Okay, let me see if I can show it real quick. I don't know if I can show it real quick. I'll try.
No worries. I just think that's cool. I'm gonna watch that later. For sure.
I'll try to bring it up while we're doing this other part here. Let's go ahead and jump into the Q&A for the Crucible. A lot of stuff here that hopefully will answer some questions for some folks, and we do have a couple questions that some of the viewers have submitted too. Hopefully what we're going to read to you now will answer some of the questions that you might have about the Crucibles. Let me get my screen in a good place here so I can see. I got new glasses this week and I really can't see worth a lick.
You're settling into them.
It's terrible. You get new glasses and you still can't see. It's like, what the heck was the point? Okay, let's see. That's that one. Or is that? There it is there. Okay, so Anvil Crucible. Here are some questions that were asked. These are some of the schematic drawings that you guys saw earlier. If the Crucible has an enclosed repair bay installed, can it navigate a jump point with a ship in its bay? Yes, at that point.
Pocket carrier.
Yeah, there you go. A ship will be treated like cargo since it will be landed and locked down with the enclosures. The only impact on the Crucible's performance will be any changes resulting from the increase of total mass. So we did talk about that a little bit earlier.
Yep, that engine, Yep.
To what extent will a Crucible crew be able to repair damages sustained to their own hull and components? The Crucible can repair anything except itself. Really makes you think. No, there's a good amount of capacity for self-repair. Internal components are fully accessible for repair, and most minor damage should be handled by the ship itself through use of an EVA, which we saw in the video. Onboard tools and drones. Major hull repair might require a dry dock visit to another Crucible, as the repair arms don't reach the entire ship. By the way, if you guys have anything you want to chime in on, feel free to stop me at any point here. Can the garage unit be left floating in space while the Crucible repairs larger ships like the Constellation? Yes. The Crucible's garage is meant to be able to undock and redock, but to repair larger ships, one does not necessarily need to undock from the garage. The larger ship repair arms and drones should be used to making repairs on larger ships. Grim, there was an image I saw, and it was the Retaliator, and I remember CIG talking about this years ago about something like ships, like some ships can literally, the whole ship can fit in that dock area. But the Retaliator actually was hanging out of the back of the thing. Yeah. So is that kind of like the expectation for certain ships that have length to them? I
think so. Yeah.
Okay.
Really? I thought it was just like a demonstration of size. Okay, that's interesting.
I think that I think technically, as long as it's still going to fall within the whole if it sits it fits thing. So the more
you got to get the pink flag. You got to get the pink flag on the back of the tally. So when you're driving down the hallway or driving down the highway, people just like, pass me, man, pass me.
Yeah, I mean, I think obviously the larger and more precarious it is, the more dangerous it is. So I think all that goes into it. But and I can say too, that note about the larger capital, I call them capital repair arms, being able to come out while the hangar's attached. It's so tight right now in the model. That's another area where I think you would need some more kind of bleed room because it's extremely tight.
Yeah.
Interesting.
And to this point, what's the largest Crucible ship the Crucible can repair? How are ships larger than this repaired? Right now, we have fit in most of the single-seater fighter. Mind you, guys, this is 2015. Keep that in mind. Single-seater ships without issue, but the Cutlass actually fits with the garage door with the top open. We're still in development.
The old Cutlass, probably.
And it was the old Cutlass. That's true.
Yeah.
We are still in development and designing the details for the Crucible. And when the ship starts to be built up more, we will be able to release more detailed dimensions on the garage and its clearances within. Part of the in-world design spec was that it needed to be able to handle all of the military single-seaters with a particular focus on Anvil designs. As a result, you can be sure it'll hold a Hornet and a Gladiator. Now, that's interesting. Yeah. I think that they're going to be to their advantage to expand that beyond Anvil stuff. That's my general feeling about that. I don't think they can just use Anvil ships as their metric for the size of that ship for single seater fighters, at least.
Yeah.
Oops, what did I just do? Did I just erase something? Oh my God. Or did I just black something? Oh, there we go. Hit the space bar. Okay. Will the AI, from the sales page, which will be necessary for a larger repair and salvage operations, can we expect a different salvage scarab module in the future? The ship will have limited salvage capabilities due to salvage and repair sharing some actions and mechanics, but we will be going into more detail on salvage. That was another thing too. I heard people in the early days thinking that the ship had some salvaging capability, because I thought that they said that there was going to be like a tow truck, something that was supposed to be able to retrieve stuff for the ship in the early days.
Oh, that's it. So there was in the 3 variants of the Crucible originally listed in Jump Point, there was a hangar variant, a capital repair variant, and a tow truck variant.
Yeah, the tugboat. You were
the tugboat variant. That's right.
Oh, okay.
That's right. Yeah.
Okay, I wasn't crazy.
I think you were saying like the tugboat variant is kind of got nixed from this whole thing.
Yep. Okay.
I think it got lost. Yeah.
Will the AI be able to perform either role described in the ship repair and maintenance post, aka can I operate a Crucible solo? Eventually, yes. Although no AI crew will ever be as efficient as humans working together. To answer the question more broadly, the Crucible is specifically designed for a single captain to both operate and engage in repair tasks. Hence the moving restaurant design that lets the main set change between the forward view and overview of the Scarab. They say you can do it. I wouldn't do it. Too much risk. Yeah. Too much risk for me as a one-person operation.
One person with blades.
Yeah,
that to me,
blades, but AI, not blades.
That to me definitely sounds like, and I don't fault CIG for doing this occasionally. I mean, everybody does it, but that does seem a little bit like marketing speak to to help like prospective buyers not feel too scared of the crew requirements. But yeah.
Okay. All right. Will we be able to repair fighters en route, or will we need to be stationary until the repairs are complete? Right now, we plan for external repairs to be done while the ship is stationary, but we do plan to allow for fixing smaller ships within the garage during transit. Think of the Crucible as a dry dock for small ships and scaffolding for larger ships that fit the garage so the garage can properly land. And so we will move with the Crucible. Now, I don't remember this, Grim, and I've always just assumed that garage is the workshop area is pressurized. Is that correct?
Pressurized. It's got if you zoom in the area where it connects to the cab, there are, even in the hollow model now, these early hollow models, there are double doors on every entrance and exit for pressurization. Yeah.
Okay. Cool.
Yeah, that's something actually that stood out to me when I kind of dug into it. I was like, oh, wow, they've already kind of built that in, and there's some ships they don't do that on.
Yeah, and the ship shape, he seemed to be talking about airlocks or pressurization all throughout the ship. So many different ways of getting in and out, whether you want to do EVA or this or that, if you're doing EVA repair or whatever. So I find that really interesting.
Yeah.
Okay. Does the Crucible still have the Miller ERS or the towing capabilities? Yes, the Miller ERS has been replaced by repair drones while we explore how to meaningfully enable construction actions on the scale implied by the Miller ERS. We have also discussed how towing might be handled, but don't have solid answers on that implementation yet. Towing actions are likely to be fairly limited for a single ship, if they are ultimately factored in at all. We are also thinking about a dedicated variant which would replace the Scarab with towing equipment. I think most of that has gone out the window. Is that still true? Do you guys know?
Probably to the SRV now. I think is handling that.
SRV is going to
so.
be taking care of that. Okay. Is there any gameplay that would require multiple crucibles to be working in unison? The crucible is capable of repairing a majority of damages attained by a ship. We do not have multi-crucible gameplay in our plans for the near future, but we are looking ahead to scenarios where multiple ships might more quickly repair a crippled larger capital, such as a bingle. Can I use my reclaimer to salvage ship components and then use my crucible to reassemble them? The crucible does not fabricate components. It can only repair components that already exist. So, yes, but you will use the salvage materials to repair other components, not to assemble new ones. We are still in the process of designing salvage, but ideally we want both systems to work in tandem so that one could salvage materials and then use those same materials in repairing another ship. Molman, thank you so much for the resub.
Thanks,
for 3
Molman.
months. Thank you. Okay.
Which makes you wonder if, because salvage and repair have a little bit of, they kind of overlap a little bit. It almost makes you wonder if you had two ships in front of you, one of them is damaged. It almost makes you wonder if you couldn't use the crucible to strip some needed material off the perfectly fine ship and build it back onto the new one. You know what I mean? I don't know what scenario would make that happen, but it's interesting to think about. That sort of flexibility.
Yeah.
I mean, I have a feeling like when you're out in places like Pyro, you might get kind of desperate, for
you may
material. So like that could very well be a thing you have to do.
Like if you had two ships in front of you, one's at 60% health and one's at 20% health, you may just strip the 20% health down completely to get your one in good fighting shape. Yeah, it could be, especially if you're in a far out system.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay. All right, and our last part on the Q&A here, how long do you anticipate it taking to repair a single heavy damaged Hornet? Our current balance plan suggests that the Crucible with a repair crew of 1 would probably need 15 minutes to repair a heavily damaged Hornet. A full crew would find it a struggle to repair the same ship in faster than 2 or 3 minutes. Note that these are early whiteboard estimates and likely to change significantly once the system is in place and is tested by the community. That sounds kind of interesting to me that they would do that in 2 to 3 minutes of repairs on a heavily damaged ship. Maybe, but I think between the time of assessing the problems, getting the materials you need and everything else, I'd like for it to be a little bit longer than 2 minutes. That seems super fast to me, but that's just me. That's just me.
I don't know. Is that a constraint of like just having one arm operator, and the arm operator being the same thing as the what's that role called? The task manager or something?
Terminal task manager,
Yeah, so I don't know if it's an issue of that or what, but that's very interesting to me.
It is
15 minutes or 3 minutes or 2 minutes.
Yeah. Okay. Well, by the way, and we do want to emphasize this too. The CIG has talked about, some people may be wondering, why will a ship like this be so important? I'll just go someplace and get repaired. One of the things that CIG has talked about is what's going to happen when you get into combat, into battles, when you're attacked, that it will be very difficult to completely destroy a ship. Most of the time you will just receive significant damage to the point where your ship just is immobilized, can't be moved. So that doesn't give you that advantage of saying, oh, my ship gets bad, I'll just fly somewhere. Nope. Either you're going to have the SRV, someone with an SRV come and tow you, or have someone who you can reach out to with a Crucible who can come out and repair your ship, or at least getting into some type of working order so that it can be moved to another location. So even though we don't hear very much about this ship, I think that there is a great importance that it is going to lend to the universe, and I think people are going to find it invaluable. You will have a business card in your space wallet for someone who has a Crucible. I guarantee you, you'll be calling.
That's going to be me.
It's going to be you. It's going to be
It's going to be me.
I'm the Johan's towing service. Yeah. Okay. All right. Arides, hey, thank you so much. Thank you for that Prime resub. Okay, we've got a couple.
It actually makes me really curious on like when they're going to get a repair ship at all in game, because as we get into these far-flung systems, the need is going to really start to pop up a lot more, especially systems that don't have a lot of repair stations. So
yeah. And you kind of brought this up in your, I keep referencing, y'all got to watch that Grim stream, you know, but just the idea that we, you know, in terms of, you know, we have the hand mining and, you know, rock mining, we have prospectors, we have moles, and we have the Orion. And right now with repair, there's not as much scaling with that. And I'm really interested to see if they come out again with a new repair ship that's like smaller, maybe no drones or anything like that, but it's just like a single kind of thing where you go out there and you repair a ship or something like that. So there's space in there, I think.
Yeah. Hey, thank you guys so much for the subs. Thank you, Mad Style.
Oh,
thank
we got a hype
you.
train coming.
Yeah, Mad Style,
Nice.
thank you so much. Saurus, thank you as well. And Comic Stud, thank you for the 100 bits again. Thank you. Thank you all so much. We really, really appreciate it. As you guys know, everything that comes into here, we turn right back around and do our giveaways. In fact, we got to start doing some giveaways. We did some right at the end of the year. We got to do some more. So maybe we'll start thinking about doing that.
But thanks for the
February.
hype train, everybody. That's super cool.
That's awesome.
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you guys. We appreciate it. We do have a couple. Go ahead, Screw.
One other thing I'll add to what Abdi just said is that I think we got another
Mad Style, thank you for the 5 gifts to the community.
Thanks,
you.
Mad Style.
Thank you. He's pushing us over the edge here with the hype train. Thank you, Mad Style, as
Awesome.
always.
Thank you.
But you bring up the Vulcan and the Crucible. The Vulcan is purely drone repair focused. It really has no other way to repair. The Crucible has the robot arms, the repair manager roles. It has drones as well. So what we're really missing is we're missing a Vulcan-sized ship, so that medium-sized ship that is repair arm-based instead of drone-based. So I still think there's a place for that. And to be quite honest with you, that medium-sized robot or repair arm-based repair ship is the one I think they could fast track in development easier than the Crucible or Vulcan. And again, as we're going into places like Pyro, where they've actually said that the Pyro star itself will send out damaging waves of radiation. You know, repair is going to become a thing. And because salvage is sort of half of repair, that's the stripping part. Maybe what we'll see in 2023 or something is a focus on tier 0 repair, where they add in the repair laser, because they've already got the salvage stripping laser, and we get a medium size, like Vulcan size ship that uses maybe one robot arm to do that work. You know, think like a prospector, but for repair.
By the way, Grim, you're supposed to learn from Chris Roberts. Never give dates. Never give dates.
Right.
Okay?
I know. It's terrible. But you know, when you look at the timelines, I could definitely see in a year or 2 years they would need to at least turn their focus to that. You know.
Right.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, I agree. There's definitely space for that. And it's kind of exciting too, because I feel like that as someone who loves to do, you know, industry centered roles in Star Citizen, I feel like there's possibilities there, and I'm curious to see what ends up coming out in that space.
I could really see, believe it or not, I could really see Drake having a ship like that, a repair ship. They seem like the perfect, they need a tow truck ship. But yeah, I don't know. It's interesting that Aegis has a repair ship and Anvil do, two military, manufacturers. So it'd be interesting to see, what manufacturer gets that next repair ship.
Yeah, I agree.
We've got a couple of questions from the fans out there. First one is coming from, we haven't seen this guy's name before. Fast Cart asked the question. The Crucible is currently $350 US. What do you think it will be when it's flight ready? Any projections there, guys?
It's going to be a lot. I feel like it's going to be plus 500, like plus 600. I don't know. What is I think the Orion right now is like 500 something.
Yeah.
And that isn't even out yet. So I feel like once this thing is actually in a place, and even then, I can't see it being anything less than like $650.
I think, I think 700 definitely. And that's, I honestly think 700, even at its current scale, To be quite honest with you, when you consider the Liberator is what, 550, and that's really just a platform for moving ships. This is a platform for moving ships and full repair, and it's the only ship, you know, again, beyond the Vulcan and the Crucible, are the only ships that can fully repair another vessel.
Right.
So that yeah, I mean, I think all day long 700.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah, definitely.
All right.
One of those ones where it's like, if you really, really want to support the development and you really are interested in this role, it might be something worth like hopping on whenever they have the next next.
It's currently a great deal.
Oh yeah,
I'll say that.
Yeah.
That's why I jumped on it. I was just like, you know what? Neither the Vulcan nor the Crucible are out, but once either of those comes out, I'm sure you're probably going to get I think the Vulcan will come out first, right? Like that seems to me more likely. So that'll probably be the loaner ship that they switch to from what it is right now, which is like the Starliner, or not the Starliner, but the Starfarer might be the loaner. I can't remember.
Yeah.
What's the loaner for the Crucible right now? I think it's the Starfarer.
Yeah, whatever it is, it doesn't repair.
Right.
Whatever it is.
That's right, yeah. Yeah.
I mean, and we do know that other ships like the Carrack, technically the Nautilus, any ship that can carry drones will technically be able to carry repair drones. You know, it's just a lot of those ships aren't going to have the material holding capability to provide the repair, the repair materials. So, for example, the Nautilus will be able to carry those repair drones. It just will not. It has no place to store repair equipment and raw materials. So, it's going to be interesting to see where they go with that. I think there is a larger question in like how far away is drone gameplay, whether it's repair or Nemo drones on the Nautilus for deactivating mines. I'm curious about that because that will dictate how far off the Vulcan is.
Yeah.
Yeah,
there are a lot of ships that will be impacted by drones already that we've got in the game. So I'm itching to see.
Yeah, and they've sort of got the arms down already. The kind of repair arm lasers with the Prospector and the Rock and all that. So I really feel like that's the first repair ship. We just don't know who's making it yet.
Yeah.
All right.
And by the way, I was wrong. The Crucible's loaner right now is the Connie Andromeda.
Oh, okay. Gotcha.
Interesting.
Yeah, I know, right?
All right, we've got one more question here. This is from, I hope I say this name correctly. Horse and Bacon. Okay. If it can, referring to the Crucible, if it can repair an airframe, do you think it could create an airframe and build a small ship as long as it stocks components?
I don't think they'll want to be able to do that.
No,
I don't. I think
not building
in theory,
anything from scratch.
It sounds like but I don't think that's something they'd want to do.
Yeah. They do make mention of the Crucible being able to like repair full wings that have been blown off and stuff with enough material. So obviously there's some superstructure in there. But I think that is much different than rebuilding like a cockpit, like an entire cockpit, and especially from scratch. I mean, we know just because of what CIG does, the level of detail with their ships, that we're not going to get anything too customizable. So it would have to be rebuilding a ship from scratch, a known ship. And they never make any real claims about it rebuilding, for example, engines completely or cockpits. They really have only talked about it rebuilding like wings from scratch. Again, that's just what they listed. It doesn't. That's not official, doctrine of how it'll work. But that's all they've really put in writing.
Yeah. The other thing too, I think about this ship. We were talking about the cargo space earlier, and Abdi, you were referring to the space that was down in that lower deck, and I wonder. Some ships will take capital to operate them, if that's making any sense, right? You got to stock it. You got your food and your water and stuff for your crew. That's one thing, but you've got to decide what you're going to carry. I think this is one of the big things about the Vulcan too. It's like, what do I stock this ship with? Am I going to stock this ship with just all low grade parts? You know what I mean? Like level, class 3, level D, because it's cheap and I can have that just to get people where they got to go. I'm not trying to put a class 1, level 1, in your fighter,
Right.
because I can't, first of all, I can't afford to have 20 of those on my ship. You know what I mean? At 70,000 a pop, but I can't have a bunch of, $9,000 components on my ship that I can fix you up and get you moving.
Yep.
Do you guys think that's going to kind of be the way people are going to operate, or do you think there will be people that'll, I've got a class 2, class 3, grade A, grade B, pick, what do you think?
Man, I think it's going to be, like you got to think about it like in terms of where you're operating again. Like it's not just about what you want to do, it's about where you're doing it. So like let's say you're in pyro, do you want to be like, that big juicy meal for them pirates out there who's like, look at them expensive components. I'm gonna just hop on board and take that. Or do you want to like, think about, cutting your losses or, making sure that you have just what you need, instead of going overboard or if you're in a place where it's relatively safe, only catering to origin owners, so everything's expensive, like,
Right.
you can do that kind of thing.
Oh boy, you would go there, right? You would go there.
And, we know too from what Tony Zervek has said with quantum and how everything from pirate activity to, the amount of refining going on or mining going on in a certain system, costs are going to heavily fluctuate.
Yeah.
So you could easily imagine in pyro, the price of raw materials may be much higher. So any repair going on in that system is probably going to be higher as a result of that, because the Crucible, unless it has another ship in its fleet providing it with those raw materials, I imagine the Crucible is going to have to land over at Ruin Station or go dock over there, buy a bunch of raw materials, commonly used raw materials for repair at pyro prices, and then it's going to have to ratchet up its prices, put a premium on that when it's in that system to repair, versus if they're in Stanton and, those materials are readily available, without much risk. So, I think that the system you're in could definitely, affect price. Or for example, if you have an org that's dominating a system to the point where they're choking off material supplies in by NPCs and players, maybe that pushes quantum into a place where repair costs need to be higher. Again, it'll just be determined on how quantum works ultimately.
It's gonna be like buying a graphics card, man. Just like
yeah.
You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Oh god, that's terrible. That's gonna trigger some people.
Badfish 2, thank you for the follow from Whammer. Whammer says thank you as well. We do have another question. Jad asked this question. He says, building on the previous question, what do you think would be the minimum ship necessary to rebuild the ship? And he puts down his follow-up. He's like, do you just need a wheel and a windshield? How much ship needs to be there for them to build on it? Is it Chinook 30? Thank you. Also, thank you for the follow as well. Thank you.
Thanks for the follow.
I know I saw somewhere in the documentation it was saying something like you might be able to take derelicts and repair those to a functional state again. But I mean, what's the condition of those derelicts? And I don't know. I'm curious to hear what Grim thinks.
Well, I think if we go by the original repair documents that Todd Pepe laid out, one of the things that they discuss is that, for example, if you need some plating for a ship, there's not just one, there's tiers of plating. So there's like low tier plate, medium, high, you know what I mean? So it's probably a bit speculative, but if you wanted to repair a ship with all high tier everything, high tier parts and pieces of material, then you're probably going to need much more material. But if you were okay with just repairing a ship to maybe just be flight ready, but like maybe not be totally ready to go back into combat, but maybe you could at least fly it home, then it would probably require much less. So I think it ultimately probably comes into like, how repaired do you want it? Because you may not always want to fully repair. You know what I mean? Maybe you just want to get home, or maybe you want to like go back into battle. You know what I mean? Which at that point, not only do you need to be repaired, but you need to be like fully armed. Your components need to be rocking because you need your shields working. So there's probably some different levels there.
Yeah.
And
to that point you just asked, Grim, and I'll throw this question to both of you guys. Is the Crucible also a restocking ship or just repair? Because I've never, even though the Vulcan, we do hear about restocking, but I don't think I ever saw anything about the Crucible, you know, being able to restock.
So coming,
You guys know
go
I'm talking
ahead,
about
Eddie.
ordinances and stuff is what I'm talking about, guys. What,
yeah.
any
So
thoughts?
I'm coming at it kind of thinking like, well, the recent discussion around the what is it called? The new ship that just came out that everyone's been arguing about, the big one.
The Liberator?
Oh my, not the Liberator.
Oh, the Odyssey?
Odyssey.
The Odyssey, yeah, the Odyssey. So everyone's talking about, oh, can that refuel this or refuel that? And I feel like it's more about what you put on your ship. You know what I mean? Like it's not like your ship has like specific functionality, you know, to help with that. It's like if you want to do it, you got to bring it on board and you got to do it manually, kind of a thing. Because I didn't see anything about it being like, oh, here's a little gas tank that you like is built into the ship and it's gonna attach right, you know, nicely. I feel like it's gonna be one of those things where you bring out a hose from a, I don't know, some kind of big barrel and you're like hooking that thing up yourself, kind of thing.
Okay.
Yeah. I think the Crucible is not currently spec'd to do rearming, refueling, but I do wonder if they're going to add that, because when you look at a lot of the other ships that can do repair, and really I kind of keep going back to the Kraken in this regard, because it is one of the only ships. Maybe the Polaris hangar can do this, but either way, the Kraken is one of the very few ships that has a fully enclosed repair hangar, right? It has two of them, and those repair hangars are listed as rearm, you know, repair, rearm, refuel hangars. And I kind of think that the Scarab, if you're carrying the workshop with you, then the workshop will have the ability to do some rearm, maybe not even rearm, but maybe some limited refuel, maybe some limited rearm, at least as much as you can carry in your holds.
Right.
But if you don't have the Scarab, then maybe you won't have that functionality. I don't know. It really just depends on if they think of the workshop as a hangar.
Yeah, because even if you think about it, if you have stuff in the hold that's not in the Scarab, and you're like, I need to get that outside, you're gonna have to depressurize that entire room, and you're gonna need to use tractor beams. You're gonna have to bring it out there and do whatever kind of manual, you know, hookup process that you got to do, and that just doesn't really sound efficient. You know what I mean?
Yeah, and I would think, even if rearm is not available, I would think some limited refuel is, because if you think a ship is heavily damaged, it may not have any fuel left. You know what I mean? It may be drained of fuel and all that, and you may repair it, and then the thing can't take off. You know, it's like, what do you just take your arms and throw it out? I don't know. Yeah, I think you would at least want some limited refuelability to at least get it out of there.
Yeah, it makes me curious if this is also supposed to be considered a tow truck, and not as in like a tugboat, but like, oh, you got a ship. This ship has, like, you know, someone shot through the fuel tank. There's no fuel in it. You know, for whatever reason, you can't refuel it. You're just gonna have to bring this to a station, and somehow land on a pad or something like that, and have it repair the ship inside the hangar, I guess. I don't know. That sounds kind of weird to me.
Well, Red Wolf 1 talks about, you know, those things were salvage and repair, sort of been a holding pattern waiting for physicalized damage. I think, too, one of the systems that we need to see how it works to sort of get further answers on all this will be the breakability system, which was finished up, I think, in early December of last year, if you look at the progress tracker. I think it's physicalized damage and breakability. But the breakability aspect of it, it's important because that determines what and how things get damaged. And it does make me wonder, like, can you damage a fuel tank, right? And leak fuel, things like that. So that'll be interesting to see. I mean, we know with components that it's not technically the component that will end up getting damaged, but it's the subcomponents that make up that component. And when you go to the component, you're actually going to pull out subcomponents from it. And I think subcomponents are going to be those little chip card things that you've seen in videos. And they've said that larger components may be made up of, maybe it's 6 subcomponents, but those are the things you're going to take out to repair. but I'm not totally sure how that affects like fuel tanks. You know what I mean? Like with a
Right, yeah.
Carrack, you can
That's
go
a different
find the
system.
fuel tank. Can that fuel tank be damaged? Is the fuel tank a component, but maybe just a
Yeah.
slightly different component to what we're thinking? I don't know.
Yeah. Yeah.
A lot of
Curious to
questions.
see about all of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of questions. A lot of questions. Yeah, Jaja, thank you for that question. Again, we don't know.
And
What were you saying?
oh, I just wanted to say you go into the subcomponent discussion in the Grim video, right? Like in the Star Jump Grim video, where y'all talk about the like different aspects of subcomponents and what types of subcomponents, and it's a really interesting discussion that, like, yeah, definitely a good video to accompany this one.
And that's something I didn't even realize until I did the research for that episode. I didn't even know there was a subcomponent aspect of components, but yeah, it was pretty enlightening.
Yeah,
it is.
Yeah. Okay. Well, we have covered a lot of information tonight, and we couldn't have done it without the great help of Star Jump Grim being on with us tonight. We do want
to be on. Thanks for bringing me on.
Oh yeah, no, we do want to once again. There's so much I want to say about what these folks are doing, but we do want to tell you guys to check out their series that they have been doing. They just did a series on repair. You just did one on caps, if I'm not mistaken, too, right?
Capital ships. Yeah, we're going to do a part 2 on that.
Absolutely. And then again, their Endeavor series or ship video was really good too. So check them out when you guys get time. Mods, if you guys can drop the links in for those or for their channel, that would be really great.
Appreciate that.
I think I see, in fact, Fast Cart's already on it as usual. He's on top of it already.
We're working on a pretty cool one for the Starliner that I think everyone will really dig. We're gonna explode the view.
Dark Knight's ears was just like.
We're actually gonna show different sort of interior layouts and stuff. So I think people will dig it.
Oh, don't even start that conversation. Jeez, don't even start. Real quick, Grim, why don't you tell folks where they can find you, and do me a favor, talk a little bit about the shipyard thing you guys are doing. The ship, what's it called? The
Fleet Viewer.
Yeah.
So I have my Twitch, which is _Grim, and then we have our YouTube channel, which was posted in chat. So you definitely go check that out. I appreciate it. We have our Discord, and there's a lot of stuff kind of going on in there all the time, where myself, Starlet, and Ender are always in there talking, as well as other people. There's a lot of overlap there between the communities. We have a lot of projects going on right now. So I'm currently, obviously, we kind of got known for my cinematic work that I did, the Drake and an Aegis, and then I am in pre-production on an RSI cinematic that I'm shooting to be done for Invictus. It's going to be a lot like the other cinematics in that I'm going to try to show some stuff that's maybe never been seen before, putting a lot of effort into a big Titan suit battle scene. So if you're a fan of Titan suit,
y'all hear that? That's exciting.
And we're basing the Titan suits all, off the very few available pieces of concept art. So trying to be as accurate as possible to the last visuals that have been seen. Okay. But there's a scene where a Perseus actually has its hangar drop down, and there's about 10 Titan suits that roll out of there. So working on that. We have Star Jump Chronicles, which is something Ender's kind of dealing with, which is our kind of machinima meets cinematics narrative storytelling stuff going on. And honestly, we got kind of inspired to do that because we were watching a lot of the Soul Citizens videos where you review machinima, and it got us pretty excited about that. So we do Star Jump Station, which is our topic discussion show, and then myself, Starlet, and a group of collaborators are working on the Hangar Link, which is there's Hangar.link, which is Starlet's website that does CCU chain calculation. We're building a fleet viewer into that will utilize all my cinematic assets and allow the Star Citizen community to build fleet pictures, because everyone loves their fleet pictures, be able to build fleet pictures using those high fidelity assets. But we're going to try to put some cool functionality in there. Like, for example, if you select the Endeavor, you're actually going to choose which modules you want on it, and it will display that way, and some other cool stuff. That's going really good. I've just past some milestones on that, because a lot of these ships do not really exist. And yes, there's holo models for some of them, but the holo models are garbage and you can't even make them look good. So a lot of these ships have had to really been rebuilt from scratch. And that's with the knowledge that they'll be obsolete one day because CIG will release the actual ship and I'll have to update it. But we're getting real close. I'm probably at the 90% finished mark on that. We're still aiming for that to release this first quarter of this year, at least in a version 1 standpoint. But we're just trying to get some of those assets into people's hands, and I do have to call out, there's some collaborators in the community who they know who they are, and I'm holding off specifically saying their names yet so they don't get inundated with requests from people, but they are much more technically savvy than I am. They make me look like a 3-year-old learning 3D, and this group has made it possible that this fleet viewer is coming together. They've developed tools and processes to get these ships looking amazing and extremely accurate. So big thanks to them. I actually was doing a talk with them today where they were teaching me something else new that I needed to know. And I couldn't, do this stuff without them. So they know who they are.
That's awesome.
And when the fleet viewer comes out, we're going to do a proper credit to everyone involved for sure. But there's definitely a group out there that has helped me out and helped me really get through the cinematics in a way that I wouldn't have been able to have done before. So
amazing.
Cool.
Very cool.
Very cool.
All right. Thank you, man. Andy, tell everybody where they can find you now. You said you were thinking about kicking back in your stream again.
Yeah, so I'll be streaming every Wednesday at 8:30 p.m. Central Time. I primarily do illustration streams. I'm an illustrator, graphic designer, but I combine my illustration work with Star Citizen so that while I'm playing Star Citizen, I can swap back and forth between just doing some like daily light drawings. And
Cool.
So if you are into that, feel free to follow me. I'm at Abdi Johan on Twitter. I'm Abdi Johan here on Twitch. Don't find my YouTube channel because it's like just an old waste bin. Don't even go there. So don't worry about YouTube, but you can find me on Twitch and Twitter.
Cool.
Sim Pasta, thank you for the follow. Aegis1, thank you for the follow, and Totally Regal, thank you all for those follows. We appreciate you.
I will add in, I totally forgot to do this, but I'll say this just because it might interest people, especially when talking about ships like the Crucible. There actually is another show I'm starting next week called Star Jump Skunkworks, and it's kind of fun. It's based off something I did casually in a stream one time, and I've just sort of turned into an entire show. But essentially what we're going to do is when I stream, I'll be building in 3D with all the assets I have, and in chat we'll take a vote on what someone wants to see that's not a reality yet, and I will build it in real time, and at the end I'll render out like a high-res beauty still of it as an all wallpaper that everyone can have. So the last time I did this, someone wanted to take the Kraken, remove all the flight decks, and replace it with like 15 size 8 turrets to turn it into this massive capital gunship, and we did that, and I did a beauty render of it too, so it was like really looked like it was out of a cinematic, and everyone just really got a big kick out of it. So I think we're going to do that going forward, and make a show out of it, and get a lot of community engagement. So I'll probably start that show like end of this next week probably.
Okay, nice. Well, congratulations on that. That's very cool. Well, we want to tell everybody thank you guys for being here with us. We really appreciate you.
Who we gonna raid?
Who we gonna raid? Okay, we are going to be raiding Captain Archer, but before we do that, because Whammer gets excited, we want to talk about our 2 shows. Thursday is our Soul Talk show, which is our community talk show. You guys can join us. That's hosted by Fastcart, where folks come into our Discord and they can ask us questions and tell us what they think about Star Citizen and all that good stuff. And then next Sunday, we're starting a new series called Shipyard, where we're going to be going over all the manufacturers of the ships that we love in Star Citizen. We're going to talk about Aegis. They're going to be the first ones. We're going alphabetical, I think. So we're going to start off with Aegis, talking about the lore, where they're at, any information you want to talk about Aegis and even Aegis ships a little bit. But really, we're going to be talking about Aegis and their place in the Star Citizen universe. We hope you guys will join us for that series of Shipyard. We'll be doing those at the end of every month when we do one of the ship manufacturers. And
Sweet.
I think,
Very cool.
other than that, that is about it. I think we're ready to go. We are going to be rating Captain Archer. So when you guys get over to Captain Archer, give a shout out, give some love. If you like what you see, follow him. Let him know that you came from the Soul Citizens. Grim, thank you again so much as always. Thank you for the visuals, the graphics, the knowledge. Abdi, I know you were ready to get into this whole repair thing, so thank you for being here. I know baby and all, but we appreciate you being here. And thanks to all of you, our viewers, and all the folks who hung out with us tonight, and hope you had a good time. And we'll see you guys real soon. And as always, we'll say the words.
Can I do it?
Yeah, go ahead and do it.
Peace, love, and soul.
All right. Peace, love, and soul. We'll see you guys
Love
later.
you, Whammer.
Thanks, everyone.
I always got to take care of Whammer. You know that, right?